regarding the curriculum. So as far as an institution is concerned, the institution is expected to collect feedback on curriculum from your peer teachers, teachers from other institutions. You have to collect feedback from other university teachers, from teachers from other institutions, and they will have to give you a feedback how good is your curriculum. And you need to collect the feedback from your students. You have to ask your students how is your curriculum and do they expect any improvement in the curriculum. And also you need to collect the feedback on curriculum from your alumni. So you have to ask them how was your curriculum, do you expect any improvement in the curriculum. So you have to collect the feedback on curriculum from your alumni. So again, you will have to collect the feedback on your curriculum from your employees. You have to ask your employees, how is the curriculum? Do you expect some more revisions? Do you expect some more components to be added into the curriculum? So you have to collect feedback from your employees. So from these four categories of stakeholders, you have to collect the feedback. And if you collect the feedback, you will get the minimum mark. If you are not doing anything, 0 marks. If you are collecting the feedback, you will be getting a D grade. If you collect and analyze, you will be getting a C grade. And if you collect, analyze, and upload this feedback analysis into your website, you will be getting a B grade. And if you collect, analyze, submit, upload this to your website, and finally, suppose you are taking action on this, if you have an action taken report, you will be getting complete 20 marks on this key aspect. So you have to collect from 4 categories, and also you need to do 4 things in the, you have to collect, analyze, upload to website, and action taken report. If you have these 4, you can very well score this 20 marks in feedback system. So this is all about criteria number 1 and its key aspects. Then we come to the teaching, learning, and evaluation, and this is supposed to be the biggest criteria in NAAC accreditation. And here, the first key aspect is student enrollment profile. So student enrollment profile is how much is your demand ratio and how much students you are able to admit to your courses. So if you are able to fill your courses, it is not only filling your courses, how many students are applying for your, how many students are applying for your courses. So your demand ratio matters here. And from different locations of the country, from what is the representation of students? Do you have international students? Do you have students from other part of the country? So like this, the student enrollment profile, or for autonomous colleges, we have 20, and for affiliated institutions, we have 30. Then catering to student diversity. So this is really a challenging question for now. The affiliated institutions, the weightage is now 50. And it is, this question is, there will be different questions under this key aspect. So this key aspect is all about how you are maintaining the student diversity. So student diversity, more importance is given for the reservation category seats. To what extent are you successful in filling your this reservation category seats? So you have to give the information. So how do you maintain the students diversity? We have the key aspect number 2. Then we have the key aspect number 3, teaching learning process. So in teaching learning process, do you bring innovations in teaching learning process? Do you use ICT tools? Do you use LMS, learning management systems, in your classes? Do you use innovative pedagogy in your classroom sessions? All in under this key aspect number 3, we have questions like this. Then we have teacher profile and quality. So how many of your teachers have got PhD? How many are getting recognitions and awards? How many are getting fellowships? All will be coming. So it is a big key aspect. We have 60 and 80 weightage here. Then evaluation process and reforms. So in your evaluation process and reforms, do you bring innovations and automation? So if you are an autonomous institution, whether your controller of examinations office is fully automated, to what extent you automate different procedures and functions for your examination? And if you are an affiliated institution, your continuous assessment examinations, to what extent you are using ICT-enabled tools there for assessment? How do you automate the continuous assessment? All these questions you have to answer. Then student performance and learning outcomes. So this is there are 2-3 questions in this. Uh, so the first question is regarding your result. So how good is your result? Then we have questions like, have you defined your program outcomes, program specific outcomes, and course outcomes with this the latest accreditation manual, which is effective from 1st January 2020. They have even increased the importance of outcome-based education for our affiliated institutions also. The weight is now being increased by 10 more. So have you defined your program outcomes, program specific outcomes, and course outcomes? So if you are defining this, if you are uploading it in your website, you will be getting 20 marks. And if you are assessing your outcomes, you'll be getting another 10 marks. So like this, we have learning performance and student performance and learning outcomes. And finally, we have the student satisfaction survey. And the student satisfaction survey is the single question having the maximum weightage. A single question contains a weightage of 50. And this student satisfaction survey questions are available in NAAC website. So I request you to download these questions, and in a Google Drive or Google Form, in some platform, you make a questionnaire of the student satisfaction survey, ask your students to participate, give them sufficient training, and do it periodically. And student satisfaction survey is also a part of criteria number 2. And this is the biggest, highest, or the criteria having highest mark. For autonomous colleges, we have 300 marks. For affiliated institutions, we have 350 marks. And then when we come to criteria number 3, research promotion of research facilities. So autonomous institutions, we have weightage of 20, and affiliated institutions, there is no weightage for this key aspect number 1. And key aspect number 2 of criteria 3, so this promotion of research, do you provide seed money for, institution provides seed money for research, or do you have facilities for research? We have questions like that. Then research mobilization for research means how many resource mobilization for research means how many funded projects our teachers are undertaking, how much amount they have realized for as a part of research. So how many projects are there, how much amount they have realized. Like this, we have questions. Then innovation ecosystem, we have many questions like what kind of facilities we have. Do we have research facility? How many of our teachers are having, how many research centers are there? How many of your teachers are having research gateship? Like this, we have questions under innovation ecosystem. And research publication and awards, we have 2 questions. One is how many of your teachers are contributing to edited volumes? So if we have contributions in books, it is counted there. If you have contributions in edited volumes of conference proceedings, it is counted there. And if you are publishing in UGC listed journals or Scopus Index journals, it is listed there. So here we have 3 questions. Concerned, this aspect is not included for them. And for autonomous colleges, we have 10 marks for consultancy, 2 questions. How much amount you have realized, how much amount you have raised as a part of consultancy, and also how much amount the institution is spending for training our teachers so that they can take up consultancy. And extension activity, 50 marks. And for affiliated institutions, we have 60 marks. How many extension activities? And again, if you are doing extension activities, please remember to do this extension activity after establishing a linkage with some organization, maybe with some schools or NGOs or some government agencies, panchayat, because there are some specific questions like how many activities are performed in association with some government, non-government organizations. So extension activities, we have 50 and 60, and collaboration and linkages. Do you have linkages and collaborations with other institutions? 20 marks. And when we think about criteria number 3, this is a weak area for all our institutions, whether it is an autonomous institution or affiliated institution. This is really a challenging area for all our institutions. And we have a notion that we will not be able to face criteria number 3, research, innovations and extension with confidence. But I bring your attention to this area. I bring your attention to this area, extension activities and collaboration. So this criteria asks we have only 150 marks, and for affiliated we have only 120. And for an affiliated institution, out of this 120, 60 marks are for extension, marks for collaboration. This anyway, all the institution will be able to score if you take some extra effort. So criteria number 3, if you go through the questions, if you have a planned activity or planned uh, systematic way of approaching criteria number 3, it will not be a difficult criteria for institutions to score, because this area we will be able to score. Then we have the next criteria, criteria number 4, infrastructure as learning resources. So we have questions like physical facilities. So physical facilities, how many classrooms, what kind of facilities you have in classrooms, what kind of physical training facilities you have. Then library. So there are questions like how many books are there, then whether your library is fully automated. But there is a question, how many of your teachers and students are visiting the library? We'll have to provide documentary evidences for that. So if you are not visiting your library, please ensure that our students and teachers are visiting the library. And it is not only visiting the library, we have to maintain proper documentation for this. Then we have the IT infrastructure. So how many computers we have, what is our bandwidth, all these questions will be coming under infrastructure. Then maintenance of campus infrastructure, in addition to or other than the infrastructure augmentation or other than the salary, how much amount we are spending for maintaining the campus. There are questions like that. Then we have criteria number 5, student support and progression. So student support is what kind of scholarships we provide from the institution, and also do we have a mechanism, a supportive mechanism, so that we will be whether do we encourage our students to avail government scholarships, and how many of our students are availing government scholarships. There are questions like this. So the student support is 30 marks, student progression 30 marks. Student progression means how many of our students are getting employment, how many of our students are progressing to higher studies, and how many of our students are clearing competitive examinations like NET, SET, or UPSC, PSC examinations, or this IELTS, or some competition examinations like that. So all questions will be coming under student progression. Then students' participation and activities. So how many programs, program means how many competitions do we conduct in our campus for our students? So how many physical activity competitions, or how many cultural competitions do we organize? So all this will be counted. Then in addition to this, whether our students are participating in the competitions and events organized by other universities and other institutions, are they getting prizes from there? All will be counted here. Then alumni engagement. So in alumni engagement also we have a question like, one question is how many alumni meetings we are conducting throughout this period. Another question is how much amount you are receiving from your alumni. So if you are receiving amount, make it a formal manner, give a formal structure for this, because we have to provide evidences that we are receiving financial support from our alumni. So altogether we have 100 marks for autonomous institutions and 130 for affiliated institutions. And coming to criteria number 6, this is governance, leadership, and management. So institutions' vision and leadership. So there are questions like, how do we practice decentralization, and how we are establishing our mission and vision statement. So now with this introduction of outcome-based education, or you have external and internal financial audit, all these questions will be coming under key aspect number 2 of criteria 6. Then key aspect number 3 is faculty empowerment strategies. So faculty empowerment strategies means, do you conduct regular training programs, not only for teachers, but also for our non-teaching staff? Do we send our teachers, or do we encourage our teachers to participate in other training programs? Do we provide them financial support to attend training programs? And financial management and resource mobilization. So again, do we have a mechanism, a policy for receiving funds, raising funds from our philanthropists and the supporters? If so, how much amount we have received from our supporters, well-wishers, all will be coming under this key aspect. Then we have the IQAC, Internal Quality Assurance System. Are you submitting AQAS, and are you conducting AAA, Academic and Administrative Audit? Are you participating in ISO certificate? Do you have you participated in ISO certification? Have you participated in NIRF? So all this, how many activities are being brought into, how many new activities are brought into your campus using through IQAC, and so how many meetings were conducted? All this will be coming under criteria number 6, key aspect number 5. And finally, we come to the criteria number 7. So institutional values and best practices. So institutional values and social responsibilities. So under this key aspect number 1. So what do we do for this physically challenged people in our campus? Do you have additional facilities for them? And what do we provide for the local community of our institution? When we have an institution in our locality, whether our local community is getting benefit out of this. And then do we have some sustainable energy? Do we promote sustainable energy? How many LED bulbs are used? All questions are there. Do we have some sustainable energy sources? Do we have rainwater harvesting? These questions are there. So institution values and social responsibilities. Best practices. So best practices means there are some best practices expected from NAAC, like, do we celebrate? What do you do for national integration? Do you celebrate the birth and death anniversaries of our national leaders? Do you celebrate the national festivals? Or what do you do for inculcating universal values into our students? And do you teach them the responsibilities and rights of Indian citizens? So like this, some questions are there. Then institutional distinctiveness. Every institution has to identify at least 2 distinct areas which make your institution distinct, unique. So we will have to give a description about what is the uniqueness or distinctiveness of our institution. 2 descriptive type of questions have to be submitted. And then, or if you add up all these weightages, it will be some adding up to 1,000 for all categories. For universities, it is 1,000. For autonomous institutions, it is 1,000. And for affiliated institutions also, it is 1,000. If you have lesser weightage in some questions, you'll be having more weightage in some other questions. So that if you add up all the questions, the weightages of questions will be coming to 1,000 across all categories. And now I come to, so previously also, before 2017 also, the NAAC accreditation was a kind, we're having these 7 criteria, and key aspects would have been different, but we were evaluated on a weightage of 1,000, so it was almost the same. But with the revised NAAC accreditation framework, which is effective from 2017, we are now moving from a qualitative way of assessment to a quantitative way of assessment. Previously, the institutions who would like to get assessed had to prepare a self-study report, and after submission of self-study report, a NAAC peer team will be coming to the campus, and they may be staying in the campus for 2-3 days. And it was a kind of subjective assessment. They will be visiting different places, and it was a kind of people management or event management, I would say, or image management. And if we can convince the team, your score will be more. But all that fancies have gone now. From a qualitative, subjective judgment, we are moving towards a quantitative, objective judgment. So this is the major changes in NAAC accreditation process. And there are a lot of queries. If you are going for the NAC accreditation for the first time, there are a lot of confusions regarding, especially for unaided institutions. They have a doubt whether we can go for NAC accreditation. Of course, any university affiliated, if you are running university programs, you can go for NAC accreditation. There is no question of whether you have included in 2F or 12B category. If you have completed 6 years, and if you are offering a university affiliated program, you can go for NAC accreditation. So that is a minimum requirement for NAC accreditation. And the revised NAC accreditation framework launched in July 2017, and it is a paradigm shift from a qualitative judgment to ICT-enabled, objective, transparent, scalable, and robust judgment process. And these are the major changes in the revised NAC accreditation process. From qualitative, we are moving to quantitative, and objectivity is increased because we are counting numbers, and we have quantitative questions. And if you are not getting, if you are not scoring, we can assess why we are not getting marks in this particular question, and more transparency is there because 70% of the marks are system generated, automated. So that transparency is brought into this. Extensive use of, wherever possible, NAC is using ICT tools for the evaluation and assessment process. And in the revised NAC accreditation process, we have 3 components, I would say. We have the self-study report. As before, we have the self-study report. And our students, the attitude and the attitude of our students towards our institution, how do they value our institution, whether they have affinity or love towards our institution, it matters, because student satisfaction survey is also a part of assessment. So the students will be assessing our institution. So their marks, the marks given by our students for our institution is also counts. And then a peer team visit, peer team report is there. So these 3 components, SSR is there, student satisfaction survey results are there, then a peer team evaluation is also there. So the accreditation process involves these 3 components. And if I go in detail about the NAC accreditation formalities, there is a pre-qualifier for team visit. So you have to submit the SSR, you have to prepare the SSR, submit the SSR, and the third-party evaluation, data validation and verification center, they will be validating your SSR. And if you are not scoring at least minimum 25% of mark, there is no peer team visit, there is no student satisfaction survey, you don't qualify for the NAC accreditation. So there is a pre-qualifier for the NAC accreditation in the revised NAC accreditation framework. Previously, it was not there. Then the major change is, now we are dividing the entire score into 2 components. One is a data given by the data validation and verification center. 70% of our score is given by a third party to whom we may not be meeting. They may be evaluating our claims from a 70% of our marks are with the institution. Sorry, the third party organization, data validation and verification center. And the peer team who come to our institution. The peer team, previously 100% of the marks were with the peer team. Now only 30% of the marks are with the peer team. So they can give us only 30% mark. Then there's a third party validation. The 70% marks are given by a third party. Then we have differences in matrices. Previously, we had all qualitative matrices. We had questions and we had to answer these questions. And then when the NAC peer team comes, we have to substantiate our claims by using supporting evidences. But now there is a division. There are qualitative matrices and quantitative matrices. Quantitative matrices means you have to provide them actual numbers. And qualitative matrices means you have to provide them a description. Then the major change in the revised NAC accreditation framework is enhanced participation of students in the assessment process. Previously also we had enhanced participation, but it was a kind of trained participation. We would be training our students Then we will be training a set of students for interacting with the peer team, and we will be giving them all kind of questions and how to answer. Now we don't know to whom NAC will be contacting, and it is not with the peer team, it is with the third party. They will be through some online means, they will be contacting our students, and this students also, student satisfaction survey is also a part of. So these are the major changes of revised NAC accreditation framework. So if I conclude, if I bring everything into a representation, so this NAC accreditation framework starts from a process called IIQA, Institutional Information on Quality Assessment. So this is the first step for expressing our willingness to take part in our accreditation process. So it starts from IIQA. So if an institution would like to participate in NAC accreditation, we have to submit the IIQA. So we have to register with the NAC portal and submit the IIQA. Then, so this IIQA, once it is submitted, institutional information on quality assessment, once it is submitted, within 10 days, NAC will either accept your IIQA or it may be sometimes rejected also. So this is submitted, and once it is submitted, if the IIQA is accepted, the institution will submit the SSR, self-study report. So we have to prepare the self-study report, and this self-study report has to be submitted. So it is not the self-studies report we submitted earlier. Earlier we had to prepare everything. Then it is we will be converting it into a doc file or something, and we will be binding this. Here now we have different questions, and we answer to these questions on the NAC portal itself. And once you submit all the questions, after the final submission from the portal itself, the SSR will be created. A PDF will be created automatically, and you download this and publish it in your website. So this is the process. So this we submit the IIQA. If it is accepted, submit the SSR and download the SSR from the portal, publish it in the website. Then we move to the second phase of NAC accreditation. So there will be a data validation and verification process. And if we are scoring at least 25% in the data validation and verification, we qualify for the assessment. Then if we qualify, there will be a student satisfaction survey, and the data validation and verification process will happen. And if you are scoring 25%, there will be a student satisfaction survey. And if you are scoring, then the peer team will come, and the peer team based assessment will happen. And finally, this evaluation and accreditation will take place. So this is the stages. These are the stages of accreditation. And then, so these are the major components. A peer team visit will be there, but they will be giving us only 30%. 30%, that means out of 1,000, they can give us only 300 marks. The student satisfaction survey is there. Then the student satisfaction survey will be done, which qualify for the peer team visit. That means if you are not scoring if you are scoring less than 25% for the score for the data validation and verification, there will not be any peer team, there will not be any student satisfaction survey. Then we will have to submit the database and contact information of the entire students, the list of students, their contact numbers, roll number, email IDs, phone number, everything we'll have to provide them. Then they will be contacting only selected. So 10% of the student, they have a number like 10% or 100, which is lesser, or depending on the number of students you have in a campus, they have different scales for this. Anyway, they will be selecting a set of students, and this question will be sent to a selected number of students. And it has got 20 objective type questions and 1 descriptive type question. These questions are readily available in the NAC website. We can download it from there. And then, so after submitting our claim, so we submit the SSR, and if it is, so I made a mistake there. It is not, there is not 30%. So we will be proceeding to the higher level, or we will be proceeding to the accreditation level if the data variation. So the third party data validation and verification center, they will be validating our data, and we will be proceeding to the next step of accreditation if the variations in data, because they will be asking for some clarification and we have to substantiate our claims with some supporting evidences. And if the variation, what they are accepting and what we have claimed, if that variation is less than 10%, we proceed to the next accreditation level of peer team visit. So I'm not talking about the 25%. This is regarding the variation. So we move to the next. If it is between 10 and 15, we will be given a warning and we will be debarred from accreditation for another 6 months. And if it is greater than 15%, we will be some action will be taken about the institution. So these are the warnings issued by the NAC regarding the data variation. So when we provide our numbers, when we provide the data, we have to be very careful that the variation should not be there when they validate the data. Then if I quickly go through the accreditation process, we register for IAQA, submit the IAQA, NAC will be intimating within 10 days, and either it will be rejected or accepted. If it is accepted, we go to the next phase. So we submit the SSR, and the DVV, data validation and verification, will take place. And if you are scoring minimum 25, if you are not scoring 25, our SSR will be rejected and we will have to go back. Or if you are scoring more than 25, this SSR is accepted and there will be a peer team visit and student satisfaction survey and we will have the result. So this is the accreditation procedure. Then the system generated score, third party evaluation consists of 70% mark, and the qualitative matrices will be evaluated by the peer team, and this will give you 30% of mark, and student satisfaction survey we have 50 marks. So altogether we will have 1000. So this 1000 weightage, so we will be coming to that. There are different questions and each question contains weightage. So that 1000, this 1000 is only a weightage. So each question carries a weightage and it is a direct grading system. For example, if I go to an example, the institution assesses the learning levels of students and organizes special programs for advanced learners and slow learners. So this is a question from criteria number 2. And 2.2.1 means criteria number 2, key aspect number 2, question number 1. So this is the first question of the key aspect number 2 of criteria 2. The question is, the institution assesses the learning levels of students and organizes special programs for advanced learners and slow learners. So the weightage is 50. Suppose our assessment team. So this is a qualitative question. So qualitative question means our peer team will be assessing this. So it happens like this. This question will come to the peer team on a portal, and they have to either select A, B, C, D, or F for this question. They cannot give any half mark, 2 mark, 1 mark like that. They have to give either A grade, B grade, C grade, or D grade, or F grade for this question. So if they are giving A grade, 60 marks, that means 15 into 4, we will be getting 60 marks. If they are giving a B grade for this question, we will be getting 45 marks because 15 into 3, because 3 is the marks for this weightage. So if they are giving F grade, we will not be getting any mark for this. So when we have 1000, the questions for 1000 marks, and which can be evaluated on a 4-point scale, A grade means 4 marks, B grade means 3 marks. So if all questions we are securing A grade, we can get 4000. So that is why the grading is like this, 3.51 to 4. It means if the institution is scoring 3510 to 4000, then A++. If the institution is scoring 3260 to 3500, A+. So this is the grading strategy for the institutions by NAC. So totally there will be 4000 marks, 1000 weights and 4000 marks. And out of 4000, how much you are getting, that will be your score. And these are certain statistics I collected from NAC website. And this in this revised NAC accreditation framework, it means this section is the institution submitted IAQA. And this section is the institutions IAQAs are accepted. And this is IAQAs accepted, institution submitted SSR. And this section is IAQA rejected. So this IAQA is rejected only up to this. And this is the SSR, the IAQA accepted, but SSR not submitted by institution. So this many IAQAs were submitted, and only a very few IAQAs are rejected. These are IAQAs submitted, and this is IAQA accepted, and this is IAQA accepted and submitted the SSR, and the small fraction is IAQA rejected. So IAQA means very fundamental information regarding the institution. What is the name of the institution? What is the to which university is affiliated, and while providing that basic information itself, this many institutions were rejected, and this is the IAQA accepted but not submitted. And even though we have very stringent rules, out of the submitted SSR, this much SSRs have been accepted and the accreditation was happened. So even though accreditation, but this many SSRs were accepted and accreditation happened. And coming to the results, the A++, so only this many institutions have got A++. And if you see, the most of the institutions are getting only B grade in the revised NAAC accreditation framework. So this is the biggest challenge. Getting an accreditation is not a big issue, but getting good scores in NAAC accreditation is going to be a big challenge. And coming to the accreditation process, we have 7 criteria, and every criteria we have key aspects, and in key aspects we have different categories of questions called qualitative questions and quantitative questions. We call it as matrices. So if we come to autonomous colleges, we have 72 quantitative questions, but for affiliated colleges we have 35 or 36. 35 is for UG colleges, 36 is for PG colleges. So autonomous colleges we have 72 quantitative questions, but affiliated institutions we have only 35 or 36 for quantitative questions. So quantitative means we have to give actual numbers. Then there are qualitative questions. Qualitative questions means we have to give descriptive answers. Descriptive answers mostly in 500 words. So we have to give them answers in description. So we have autonomous institutions, we have 35 qualitative questions, but when it comes to affiliated institutions, there are 58 qualitative questions. Then there is an example of a qualitative question. The institution has adequate facilities for teaching, learning, classroom, laboratories, etc. We have to submit an answer within 500 words. So this is a qualitative question. This is a quantitative question. Number of awards and medals for outstanding performance in cultural activities at national, international. This is a question from previous manual. Now they are counting university level, state level. Previously they were counting only national and international level. So here you have to give the numbers. How many in 2016? How many in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020? How many numbers? The actual numbers you have to give. So this will be in numbers. So this is a quantitative question. And then percentage of programs where, so if I go to another question number 1.1.2, percentage of programs where syllabus revision was carried out during the last 5 years. So this percentage means number of programs where syllabus revision was carried out divided by total number of programs. So there is a big confusion. That is why I have selected this. Wherever you see this percentage of teachers getting awards, percentage of teachers getting PhD, percentage of full-time teachers having PhD, like that, there are questions. So wherever we have percentage, you don't have to calculate the percentage and all. You have to calculate only the numbers. And I will be coming to that. The percentage and everything will be calculated automatically by the NAAC portal. And then every question, we have a associated with every question, we will be having a data template, and we also have to provide additional supporting evidences. So this is an example of a data template. So the information you will have to provide exactly in a template provided by NAAC. So the program code is there, program name is there, year of introduction is there, and all these templates can be downloaded from NAAC, and you can start practicing. Or you so if you are trying for submitting your SSR, download these templates, enter this data exactly in the template, so that you will be able to copy and paste back to their portal. And then so every question, it has got a every quantitative question will be having a data template, and also we have to provide them the supporting evidences. So what supporting evidences we have to give? There also NAAC is very clear. They have SOPs, standard operation procedures for the manual. So where all these questions are explained, and it says what kind of supporting documents will be accepted by NAAC. So for question number 1.1, they are saying approved minutes we have to. So this portion I have taken from SOP. So we have to submit we have to upload the approved minutes, and we have to highlight the area where these decisions are taken. So that also they are clearly. So even if you are uploading the minutes, it will not be treated as a supporting evidence. You will have to highlight, then scan, then upload. The number of courses having employability. This is a question. So we have to upload the syllabus where this employability comes. So we will have to take the extract of the syllabus, and it has to be uploaded where this employability aspect comes. So another question, average percent of teachers undergoing online face-to-face faculty development programs, online face-to-face or online or face-to-face. So you have to provide the data. So in 2016, suppose 100 of your teachers, 2016, 200 of your teachers participated. You have to provide the data. And there is another data template where you have to mention the name of the teacher, then the program which attended, like that. But so this is the data template for that question. Number of name of the teacher who attended, title of the program, from which date to which date. And in SOP, it clearly says what kind of programs can be counted here. One-day program, whether one-day program can be counted. Suppose a teacher is attending 20 programs in a year, can be counted like that. So all this clarification will be mentioned in the SOP. So if you go through the SOP, it is very clear what we have to submit as supporting document for questions. Then we are almost coming to an end. So this, if you are going for a NAAC accreditation, these are the documents to be provided to NAAC. You have to prepare an executive summary about the SSR, a description in 2,000 to 3,000 words, an executive summary of your SSR. And then we have to provide the institution information for quality assessment, basic information, and this is your willingness to take part in the accreditation process. Then we have to provide a profile of the institution. So this is again basic information like name of the institution, then the affiliated university name, number of programs you have. So all this will be coming. But since it is an automated process, even the name of the institution may matter, because suppose in our case we have a problem. Previously we were Marian College, later we changed to Marian College Kuttikanam. Now we are Marian College Kuttikanam Autonomous. But the problem is, since it is evaluated by a system, the name what we enter and the supporting evidences, the university affiliation order, the letter from UJC, everywhere this name should match. Then only we will be moving to the next level. So in profile of the institution, even while entering the name of the institution itself, we have to be very careful, and it should match with the name of the institution. Then we have the extended profile of the institution, where we will have to enter the information like number of permanent teachers, number of visiting teachers, number of students admitted, number of programs, like that. So that is why I have mentioned that wherever we have these averages and all, we don't have to worry about calculating the averages, because once we submit the extended profile of the institution, wherever we need to calculate the average and all, the average will be calculated by taking values from the extended profile of the institution. So we have to be very careful about submitting data for extended profile of the institution also, because depending on this value you provide here, your average and scores will vary. Then we have the quality indicator framework, which means the questions, 107 questions for autonomous institutions, 92 questions for affiliated institutions, the answers to those questions. It is quality indicator framework. Then we have the data templates and supporting documents. If we submit all this, we are completing the NAAC accreditation process. And I'm coming to an end. So we are providing online training from Marian College. We are providing training programs on Moodle platform on video content, because now we are all thinking about how to go online, how to record your videos. So on video content creation, how to record your videos, how to edit your videos, how to upload this, how to add interactions using S5P, all will be covered here. Then we also provide a training program for Moodle website creation. By attending this program, you will be able to create your own Moodle website. Then we also provide training on outcome-based education, because in NAAC accreditation, now it is not 30, it is 40 marks. If you implement outcome-based education, you can get 30 marks for affiliated and 40 marks for autonomous colleges. And if you incorporate ICT-enabled teaching learning process into your curriculum, you can very well score 50 marks. So these two questions are very important. So you have to incorporate outcome-based. If you are going for NAAC accreditation, you have to incorporate outcome-based education and also ICT-enabled teaching learning. So that is why we are offering these courses. You can go to mariancollege.org, events.esp, or you can scan this QR code. You will be going to that. And then we are also offering a free basic introduction to Moodle. If you want to know this, you can scan this QR code, or this is the URL address. And this, if you attend this course, anybody can attend, and you will get a certificate also. And you will get a basic idea about Moodle, how it functions, and how to start a Moodle course and all. So with this, I wind up my presentation. So thank you for joining me. I'll come back for if you have some.
Now there will be an opportunity to interact and ask questions to resource person. Please use chat window for the same. Sir, one question from Dr. Abu Bakr. Can he get PowerPoint of this presentation?
Yeah, I'll share. I'm just sharing the website address of our courses. And also I'll share the website address of our free course.
Thank you, sir. If you have any queries, ask in chat box.
So if you have some queries, you can ask me now. Otherwise, we'll wind up.
Sir, one question.
Yes.
What is the importance of ICT in the revised NAAC accreditation framework, sir?
What is the
importance of ICT?
ICT teaching.
Okay. Yes.
So there are two questions in NAAC. The importance of ICT, if you go through the NAAC accreditation manual in criteria number 1, they are asking whether you are collecting feedback and all. You will have to collect feedback only through ICT enabled tools. Criteria number 2, we have 2 specific questions in the 2S and key aspect number 2. like, are you using learning management systems and ICT tools? 20 marks. Then again, there is a question, are you using innovative pedagogy in your teaching learning process? And then there is a question like, are you using ICT tools in your continuous assessment evaluation? And if you are an autonomous college, there is a question, how much, what is the level of automation in your controller of examinations office procedures? And again, going to criteria number 4, again, we have questions like whether your library is automated. Then if a library is automated, we have marks for that. Again, there are questions like how many computers are there, what is your bandwidth. So ICT is given more importance and weightage in the revised NAAC accreditation framework.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one more question from Tina Matthew. Can you list some good practices that can be done in colleges?
Pardon?
Can you list some good practices that can be done in colleges?
So good practices, if we take our institution, ICT integration is a good practice we practice in our institution. We have Moodle in our institution. So even if you don't have Moodle, you can practice, you can start using Google Classroom. This is an ICT. And now without this, we may not be able to proceed also. Then we have a good practice like if teachers are coming up with a publication, if it is a UGC listed, then we give a small seed money for this, and this can be counted in many questions. So we encourage publications, we encourage publications from the teacher side, and we also encourage them to write books. Then other thing is the extension activities. Our extension activities are very strong. So we make extension activity as a part of our curriculum itself. So we set apart one day for extension activities in every semester, and we have associations with a lot of panchayats and other panchayats, NGOs, government schools in and around Pyramid. So so that way you can also make it a compulsory practice to have extension activities, so that there's a question like the number of students participating in extension activities, and if you make it compulsory, you can score 100 marks in that. Then coming to criteria number 5, we have a separate department consisting of teachers and office staff who will be searching for government schemes, government scholarships, and all these scholarships will be intimated to students, and we have a mechanism to encourage our students to. So we will be motivating them to apply for this government scholarships, and a lot of our students are getting government scholarships. And also we catch our alumni for sponsoring into our scholarship schemes. We have a well-established scholarship cell where we provide a lot of scholarships for our students. So that way you can do. Then you can associate with the, you may be arranging many training programs for your students for placement and other activities. But if you are arranging, establish a formal linkage with this training institutions and arrange training programs for bank coaching or net coaching. Then in 2-3 questions it can be counted. Then coming to criteria number 7, you replace all lights with LEDs, and if possible install some solar energy systems. Then do little bit of rainwater harvesting, plant trees. Then we every month we ensure that we are celebrating the birth and death anniversaries or some national festivals so we give responsibility for teachers for that. And again, value education, we also make it as a part of our curriculum, and we set apart mentoring hours. So these are all good practices I would recommend for the other institutions also.
Thank you, sir. Sir, another question. Self-financing college has any extra criteria?
No. We have categories like universities, autonomous institutions, then affiliated colleges, UG affiliated colleges, and PG affiliated colleges, only for categories.
Okay, thank you. Sir, another question. A list of good LMS for our college management system.
So it is a 100 million question because we cannot say that one LMS is good or another is bad. It depends on your situation, your infrastructure. So Moodle is one LMS which is free, which can be used by any teacher, and with the sufficient training, you can have your own Moodle website. So Moodle is a good choice. And Moodle has got a lot of facilities, and sometimes you may feel that it is a bit complicated also because it will take some time to get acquainted with the features of Moodle. Then if you want a simple solution, you can go for Google Classroom. Or if you have a lot of money to invest, Blackboard is another option. We can purchase an LMS, or many ERP solutions which are being offered from third-party vendors. They also have limited facilities of LMS where you can share notes, you can conduct quizzes and other assessment activities. So it depends on your need, your ability to learn new things, and your ability to invest. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Another question, sir. Is interdepartmental collaborations within the college accountable?
Within the college, it is not accountable. You have to establish linkages with other institutions.
Thank you, sir. Another one, sir, in criteria 7, there is one section, locational advantage. Please explain about this.
So I doubt whether we have that question now, locational advantage and disadvantage in latest manual. I'll just refer the latest manual. Previously it was there, locational advantage and disadvantage. Now in criteria number 7, I think that question is removed.
Okay, thank you.
1 second, I will
Another
verify.
one.
Yeah.
Next question. Sir, another question.
Yes.
Kindly share the link Moodle old version, which is free.
That is already I have shared. I will share once again. So I think previously the question was there, how do you manage the locational advantage and disadvantage? In the revised manual, which is effective from 1st June, 1st January 2020, that question is there, not there. How do you address the locational advantage and disadvantage? So this, the link which I share now, this is so this this link I have shared. You can join for a free course on Moodle. So this is you can access this course. You can join.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another one more question. Please explain institutional distinctiveness in criteria 7.
So institutional distinctiveness in criteria 7 means we have to identify what is our distinctiveness, what is our strong areas. For example, I can give an example. If I ask us, our extension activities are our distinctiveness. Our extensive use of ICT tools in teaching learning are our distinctiveness. So every institution, depending on your location, your expertise, you will have your own distinctiveness. So on a higher level meeting, you have to discuss what is your distinctiveness and what is, so you have to identify this. And the question is, you have to submit a descriptive answer to, you have to identify two distinctiveness, two unique activities of your institution, and you have to submit it as a descriptive answer.
Thank you, sir. Mention the name of the questionnaire.
Pardon?
Another question. Sir, the questions are over, I think.
Then tomorrow we are arranging a webinar. Let me see. I will.
Thank you, Bin sir, for
I'll
the
share that
informative session.
webinar brochure. And the advantage is here you have a link to our free course, and there is a video also in this PDF which will explain how to join for that free course. I hope you have received that PDF. So in that PDF, there is a link to the free course, and also you can there is a video link, and that video link will explain how you can access the free course, how to join and how to enroll. So that PDF I have shared now.
Tina Matthew asking again one more question. Is Moodle and Moodle Cloud are different?
Moodle is a software, and Moodle Cloud is a platform where we are installing and offering this software. So cloud is a hardware where we can install the software and which can be offered to others.
Whether faculty exchange within the college and with other institutions helpful? Another question.
Yeah, there's a specific question. How many faculty and student exchange programs you organize? But it is not within the departments of the college with the other institutions.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So
I invite
once again, I share this PDF file, and if anybody wants, you can download, and I recommend you to access this course on Moodle so that you will be getting an idea about what is Moodle and what are the features of Moodle if you are new to Moodle, and you will get a certificate from there also. So if no more questions are there, then we will wind up. So
sir, I invite Samson Das sir, Head of the Department of English, for vote of thanks.
Respected Controller of Examinations, Dr. Vincent P.J. sir, respected Principal, Dr. Dominic Thomas sir, the resource person of the day, Dr. Binu Thomas sir, IQAC Coordinator, Reina Sebastian ma'am, convener of the session, Sri Sajeesh P.J. sir, all the dignitaries of the session, and all the participants. One of the secrets of life is to make stepping stones out of stumbling blocks. SES College Srikantapuram to makes the stumbling block of Corona days to a wonderful stepping stone by organizing a productive academic event through Convergence 2020. The horizon of knowledge can never be locked down during any period. And we are sure that this webinar has provided an opportunity to link scholars from different parts of the world. And now I would like to thank Dr. Binu Thomas when the fulcrum of the webinar, the inaugural session, gets through with. It was a really wonderful and fruitful session, which detailed the NAAC revised guidelines regarding the assessment and accreditation. On behalf of the IQAC and the whole college and the organizing committee, I would like to thank Dr. Binu Thomas for delivering such a wonderful and fruitful session. It was very meaningful, sir, the way you dealt with the minute details of each criterion and the minute details like the templates, how to fill the templates, and what all things are to be done. I'm sure that all the participants have really benefited from the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So thank you for inviting me also. Thank you organizers, and thank you my participants for attending this webinar. So with this, I will wind up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all the participants.